Mike, I'm going to pass it to you and let you do your thing. Or Lincoln, if you have record rights, I'll let you hit record instead.
It's recording.
Awesome. So thank you and welcome everybody to the second edition of the Man Cave. This week we've got the opportunity to bring on Mike Griiffin. And Mike Griiffin, I'm actually super excited to hear your entire story because I've gotten a little snippets to be able to do an introduction, but you and I haven't had the opportunity to talk yet. So I'm actually super excited to hear the entirety of the story. Mike Griiffin is married to Carrie with 4 kids, if I got that count correct.
Right. You got it.
Beautiful. Is working in the financial sector for Merrill Lynch and also a pastor. I'd love to hear how you balance all that, and I'm sure we will in your overall story. But it's been coaching about 13 months and is currently a 1-star diamond. And I mean, if you're on this call, you're here to hear the dude side of the equation. There's not a lot of dudes out there that go past the obligatory diamond of I'm going to support my wife's business center. So I can't wait to hear the story of how we're building that and building it forward, and hear about when you're going to go 2-star, because that's the whole game. Just 2-star and keep repeating 2-star at that point. So, Mike, I hope I've been overly brief in the introduction, because I actually want to turn it over to you and listen to your story, because I've heard great things about it, but I want to hear it firsthand. So, Mike, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, I appreciate that. And, we have an unbelievable team, and I see a lot of their faces on this call today. And so, hey, Lindsay, I mean, I see them, and, the cool thing is they're all my best friends as well. And so I see Courtney, who just joined our team, and she and her husband are in this business, and I know looking forward to it. And so the cool part about it is that you get to meet people that you never would have met before. But let me tell you my story a little bit. So I started the Beachbody programs a long time ago, when P90X was just the DVD set. And when every new program came out, you had to buy a new DVD. And so I did these programs for years. And with my job with Merrill Lynch, for those of you I don't know, I'm in the financial services business, and I travel all over the country, but we've moved 4 times with this job. And the thing that was consistent is that I could do these programs anywhere. And, as you said, Andrew, I mean, I have 4 kids. I have a full-time job. We're active on the weekends. By the way, every single night of the week, except for Sundays, we have a sporting activity going on. So, I mean, it's crazy around here. But the simple truth is that I've been doing these programs for years and years and years, and they have worked, and they've worked every single time. And so 3 years ago, I have one of my best friends who was getting ready for his wedding. His wife is on the call tonight, Lisa, said, hey, why don't you think about being a coach for Beachbody? And my exact answer was, just remember, although I had lost 35 pounds in doing this, my answer was, I'm not going to do it. I just don't have the time. I don't want to do this. It's a whole lot of work. I'm not interested. And so then every single time for 3 years, he would send me some coach that's done something and go, by the way, you do this for us. Why would you not do this? And so he kind of dripped on me. And we were doing the Master's Hammer and Chisel program. And we had done that, I think, 3 times in a row. And we were burnt out. And I saw this program called Lift 4 that was that was coming open. I guess it was a year and 13 months ago. And the only way that you could get this program was to become a coach. And so I Joel Freeman posted something saying, hey, if you're interested in becoming a coach and doing this program, I'd be interested. And so to make a long story short, I posted something on there saying, hey, what do I have to do? And then 94 people reached out to me saying, hey, you got to be a coach, reach out to this team. Now, I want to let you know, of those 94 people, 93 of them were women. Just, hey, we're in the man cave thing here. And there was one, and his name was Todd Slingsby, Z's husband, that reached out. And he said, hey, are you interested? We have a great team, blah, blah, blah. And so I reached back out to him. And look, I think it was a God thing, but we absolutely hit it off. He loved the 80s and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's a whole separate story. He was in an 80s rock band. I've been in an 80s rock band. He's done a lot of the similar things. So anyway, we get into this, and I did it specifically. You got to remember, I did it specifically so I could have the Lift 4 program, and that was it. That was it. And I think that's important because that's all I intended it to be. And then I have a phone call with Todd and Z flat out comes back and says, hey, why don't you just put it out there and say, try and get a challenge group and just post your before and after pictures. And when you post the before and after pictures, just say, I'm starting a group on X, Y, and Z date. I'd love for you to join me. Well, I posted the before and after pictures and got 80 responses to it. And it was nothing more than asking people or just putting it out there and following up. And we had an unbelievable response to it. And so from that, a lot of the people that you see on this screen right now were those original people that joined 13 months ago and now have built their businesses and continue to grow their businesses. And so I tell you that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I could kick myself for not becoming a coach when I first joined. I only imagine where I would be right now if I had joined years and years and years ago after the first time that it worked for me. The second time, 3 years ago, I go, why didn't I at least explore it? And I had all these reasons of why I didn't do it versus researching the exact opposite reason of why I should do it. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you from a financial perspective, I'm in the financial services business. So at the same point in time, there was a book. And if you've ever read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's a great book. They talk about one of the things that the wealthy do immediately in order to save taxes. And that is this: they open a corporation. They open an S corporation. And you know what? Most of them spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to open some type of business and blah, blah, blah. And on this one, we get all of the same tax benefits. We get all the same write-offs. We get all the same depreciation. We get all the same benefits. We don't have to carry any overhead for this. And so instead of asking myself, why would I not do this? I turned it around and said, why would I not do this? Instead of why would I do this? Why would I not do this? I mean, it makes all the logical sense in the world. And by the way, let's look at the downside. What's the downside to it? And so the downside is that if I just don't want to do it anymore, you quit, you walk away, and you don't owe anybody anything. And I think that is a beautiful thing. But if you take the exact opposite approach, you still get all the tax benefits, all the write-offs, the cell phones that we use, my wife's car that we use, the office that I'm in right now, all of it we get to write off on taxes. And so it's an interesting thing because it's, the premise of that book says, hey, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And so when you operate this business as a business, and then when you are able to affect and change people's lives. And when you see the people's lives that you have changed, and some you've never met before, that's all that you need to do this. And so, when I did this at the first time, I was 33 years old, and now I'm 46. And at 33 years old, I had my first child of 4 children, and I was 33 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was at 25% body fat, and I'm at 4% right now. But the biggest and significant difference is that at that point in time, I said, I'm no longer doing this for me. And so when you realize that, look, I'm at 46 and in the best shape of my life, I'm working with my best friends to grow a business to as big as we want to grow it, then it's fun. And it's really fun to do. And so I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions, but that's basically my story in a nutshell. Instead of asking people, why they would do this, I think the question, at least to a guy's standpoint, would be, why would you not do this? There's no capital requirements. You get to help people. It's a proven program. You get to make money. You get all the tax benefits. And by the way, we owned a couple of Quiznos before, and this was early on in my career, or early on in my life. And then when we left those, we had a big bill to pay at the end because we took out a loan. And I hate debt. I absolutely hate it. And so with this, we get all the exact same benefits, with none of the headaches. And so I'll turn it back to you, Andrew. But the simple question is, why would you not do this? We've already made more money on this than we ever did, owning those sandwich franchises on the side.
So there's a lot in there I want to actually unpack with you, because I kind of fibbed. I've heard your story before, and I know there's a little bit more to it than that. But a couple things you said in there that number one, I would want to say that, first and foremost, nobody on the call at least I don't think anybody on the call is a tax advisor. So please make sure when you're doing your taxes, make sure you get professional advice on that. But yes, one of the absolute benefits is the ability to write off legitimate business expenses. 100%. Could not agree with you more. But there's a couple things you said in there that I kind of want to unpack a little bit with you. You mentioned that really the catalyst for you to go from super dedicated challenger, because I'm not misrepresenting you on that in that regards. Like you were super dedicated to Beachbody programs before you were a coach, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
But from you to go from that to a coach took Lift 4, and more importantly, Lift 4 early release. You wanted to be a part of that. We are all coming up on the release of 6 weeks of the work. We're actually only probably 10 days away from being able to, actually we're 12 days away from being able to purchase that. What recommendations would you give the group here from a messaging perspective to reach you? Because there are folks out there in our groups that are dedicated challengers. I can think of a couple in mind right now that they're all about it, but they don't want to be a coach. But the reality is, when we start 6 weeks of the work on October 7th, at least in my group, we're starting October 7th. If they're not coached, they can't participate. Right. So what spoke to you as that dedicated challenger, or was it purely FOMO? Was it purely just the fear of missing out on it?
So we had been doing the same programs over and over again, and especially in the guys world, there are only a handful of programs dedicated solely to guys. You've got Body Beast, you've got P90X, and Lift 4. And so we had done those. We had done all of them, and we're ready for a new challenge. And so I think 6 weeks of the work. In fact, when we were at the summit, of all the programs that were announced, that was the one that fired me up, because it was the most difficult. It was a challenge. And so if you're speaking to me, I'm speaking the challenge. I'm speaking, why would you not do this? And I really think, and this is for everybody on the phone, just reverse the language. Instead of, I think you should do this, I think you should turn it around to, why would you not do this? Especially when you get a discount on it, there's really no reason why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, so that's a really, really good point. And Kyle, I'm going to answer your question that I see, excuse me, in the chat. When the work releases on September 30th and then the test group start on October 7th, yes, that's considered an early release. Only coaches are going to have access to that. So customers will not have access to 6 weeks of the work until Q1 2020 is when they'll actually release it, broad-based releasing on BOD. There was something else. You'd mentioned that I wanted to unpack with you. I wanted to unpack the early purchase and being that process. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. You know, how did you first come? I know you were doing Beachbody programs, and I know that you were dedicated with it, and I know that you were enticed to be a coach through. If I recall correctly, one of your buddies getting married. If I remember the story correctly.
Yeah.
And you guys working out together. How did you first get introduced to Beachbody? What was the first thing that brought you in? Was it literally, you know, the infomercial in the hotel room, or how did that start?
Yeah, it was P90X. So we were living in Florida, and I had just gotten a job there, and I joined the YMCA. And I remember going to the YMCA and driving 30 minutes there, and the class was at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I had to get up at 4 o'clock to drive there for 30 minutes to get there. And then the instructor just sat there and told us, you know, what exercises to do, did not participate in it with us. And then I had to get back in my car and shower. And make a long story short, to go and do the program, it took me 2 hours, at a minimum 2 hours to do it. And I flat out said, this is for the birds. You know, I've got this garage, I've seen this, I'm looking for something new. And so to answer your question, yes, it was the infomercial where I was like, are these results real? And, you know, why would I not? It's less than 1 month's membership to the Y. Why would I not try it out? And so I did, and I followed the game plan, and I followed the nutrition plan, and it worked like a champ. And I still have the pictures, and that's crazy because I still have the pictures to this day, the before and after pictures from it. And they were the same exact results that they are every time I do it today.
Well, and you actually bring up a really, really good point that I think as guys, we are probably even more hesitant to do than the women that are in our organization. And that is to document. You know, to actually go and start with a before and an after, even going down to taking measurements. And by the way, measurements going up is a win as well. Like I can tell you from doing, God, I think I finally stopped at 7 rounds of lift 4 when I finally decided, you know, I think MM100 finally came out or whatever it was. And, you know, my inches actually went up overall, but not in the areas I didn't want them to. Like my waist actually stayed, my waist went down just a little, I mean, like this much, like not really. But, and maybe you don't have this story, but I'm gonna ask anyways, you know, what kind of value do you see from a guy being able to put out there your personal story of before and after? Do you see reactions to that? Because I think that's one of the things that guys struggle with a little bit is, you know, the vulnerability of, yeah, there's a before. Like before exists, and maybe that before is right now. So maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, so you can see my story. I mean, it literally a couple of weeks ago, I posted a picture of me at 33 years old when I had my first child. And that was kind of the defining moment for me when I realized that, you know, my wife had gained baby weight, but, you know, as soon as she had the child, it was gone. Versus me, I gained the baby weight with her and mine was still there. But it was at that point in time when we had our first child that I realized, hey, this life isn't just for me. I mean, I have to live this life. And I was 33 having my first child, and now I have 4 children. So, you can imagine you can imagine what I go through as far as, hey, I want to be healthy for these kids because I want to invest in them. And when you realize that this life isn't just for you anymore, that's a big difference. That's my why. And so, I continually, and if you know me, you'll hear this. It's from the Bible, as where you reap is where you'll sow, or where you sow is where you'll reap. Same thing in the investment, same thing with your marriage, same thing with anything that's important in your life. If you don't invest in it, you won't get returns in it. And so if something's important to you, we have to invest in it. And so that's the simple thing. If I want to live a long and healthy life for my kids, if I want to have a great marriage, if I want to be healthy, I have to invest in it. And if I don't, I can't expect the returns.
That's awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. Let me spend a little bit of time digging in further back in your story. So I don't know if you saw the recording, the last one we did, which was the initial launch of the Man Cave. And, myself and Jared and Todd and Lincoln kind of all shared our involvement in the business, which looks very different, by the way. I mean, the four of us work the business very differently from each other, and there were kind of four different buckets we kind of put ourselves in, but I don't want to frame it for you that way. Are you, I guess my question is, are you actively working and recruiting and directly running your own challenge groups? Are you more on a back end working it with your wife? What is a day in the life of Mike Griiffin in regards to the business look like?
No, I'm actively running it, actively recruiting, actively looking for people, always asking. And here's the thing. So it goes back to where you invest is where you get your returns. I frame it a different way. And I said, you have to plant the seeds. And then when you seed, you have to water the seeds. And then when you water the seeds, they'll cultivate and they'll grow. So if you look at it that way, just saying to somebody, hey, by the way, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but you'd be great at it. You may not get an immediate return, but if I showed you my list of people that told me no, in fact, most of the people on my team told me no at first. You continually just plant the seed and know that the seed is in the ground, and then they start watching you. As soon as they start watching, then that's when you continually say, hey, by the way, I saw that you're watching. You'd be great at this. Don't know if you've ever thought about that. And eventually they will come around. And so that saying that the fortune is in the follow-up is 100% true.
So when you say you'd be great at this, because obviously there's two things you can lead with, and I'm being very much bent one way. You can lead with fitness and you can lead with business.
Yep.
Which one do you lead with, and is it different depending on the gender that you're speaking with? This question.
Yeah, I don't have a differentiator right now. It all depends on what they tell me. So at first it was all about the fitness, and then now it's kind of transformed more to about the business. And so, but no, it's not gender based. If I see somebody that would be good at this business, I flat out tell them they would be good at this. And there's a certain thing that I look for within there, and most of it is drive.
Okay. So let's talk, I want to dig into that, but let's talk about what platforms you're leveraging first. Are you a one platform guy? Do you do multiple platforms? Where do you find that you're having the most success attracting actually people who will take next steps, not just followers, but people who take next steps?
So when you mean platform, what do you mean?
Is it directly inviting people you actually know and you're physically talking to, so you're on the phone with them? Is it Facebook and Facebook Messenger? Is it Instagram and stories? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter? What I don't want to say medium, because that's I think there can be outside of social mediums. But what platform are you actually probably seeing the most success for you?
There isn't a single platform that I see the most success from. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Phone call. I mean, I look at Kyle. Kyle is one of our most successful coaches, and he was a phone call. In fact, I look at Lindsay, and her husband JP was a phone call. So, and that may be a thing with guys. With hey, you've got this, but it's going to take a phone call afterwards to discuss it with them. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of the guys were a phone call afterwards.
So that's how you started the conversation. Well, maybe not started the conversation. That's how you actually connected. Did you have a relationship with Kyle outside of social media that you actually had face to face? So yes.
Yes.
Yeah. What about JP?
Yep, I did. So I knew both of them. Yep.
So what I would describe that as, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you've really found a lot of success in what most people would consider your warm market. The people that you have, again, I use these generalities, and please don't flame me for them, that you have a real relationship with. Not someone who their user handle on Instagram.
Right. That's true. I mean, most of the coaches that we've had a lot of success with, I mean, I think everybody starts off with their warm market. But, that also goes into the cold market, or gives you the confidence. And, I don't think there's a post or a follow-up that I do that, I say there's 200 people in our group. It's more of a, hey, I just want to let you know, there's a lot of people that are doing this, especially, there are people that I don't know that we've become great friends with that are doing this as well.
So I love that. And I love the fact that you're leveraging relationships that you already had. And by that, I mean, you're really leveraging those relationships to help the people that matter most to you. Because that's, at the end of the day, what this business is really all about, is empowering and helping other people. I'd like to talk a little bit about your work relationship, because obviously you still have a full-time position, former pastor. You're doing this as, what I'm going to call a full-time coach. I realize that's not retired from your job full-time coach, but if you're a one-star diamond coach and maintaining that, you're working at a pretty good pace. I mean, that's what happens. Give us a little bit more about what you do for Morgan Stanley, and how, if at all, that has raised, I don't want to use the word conflict because that's too strong a word, but maybe inner confliction as to how do you balance the professional life with the personal entrepreneurship that you're experiencing within this business. Because I know something I actually struggle with all the time. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on.
So I mean, to make matters worse, I travel a lot with my job. So I'm on a plane just about every week going somewhere across the country. Look, I have to realize that my time is limited, and that I have to work in power pockets. And I've said this a lot more. And Lisa on our team, she's on here. Actually, we had a call the other day just realizing that you can't do everything. So even though you may see somebody that is doing a whole lot more than you, what you have to do is remain consistent in what you're doing. And it's the consistency that builds the relationships and that builds the time. And look, I'm going to do the workouts regardless. I'm going to post the workouts regardless. We're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to find 30 minutes or an hour where I can just say, hey man, how you doing? You should join this with us. Let me know if you're interested. And that's simply it. We've also been doing a brain book idea, which is just creating the relationship. So anybody that's watching your story or responding to your posts, just reach out and say, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Great to see you. Hope things are going well. And just creating that dialogue and re-engaging those relationships. I just posted an anniversary picture this past week. And so with that anniversary picture, I'm going to go back and just start a dialogue with every single person. I think there's 200 people that responded on that. But look, it's just opening the dialogue, creating the engagement, reaching out to people. And candidly, that's what I love. I mean, how can we help people?
So when you are, and yeah, I mean, there's so many things I want to ask you, Mike, that I'm suddenly in my brain, okay, stop that, got to filter this out, got to do those things. So is interacting with your stories or interacting with your posts, is that currently the way that you're kind of driving the most of the top of the pipeline? And then is that also who you're inviting at this point? And is that invitation, and I think the answer is yes, based on what you've said a couple times, but is that invitation as simple as, hey, you'd crush it in this, why aren't you doing this with me? You know?
Yeah. I look, if anyone is struggling about what to say, stop. Just say, you should do this with us. Hey, I'm on day 53 of a challenge. It's been awesome. You would love this. You should do it. It's only 20 minutes. And then they'll come back, oh, I'm so busy. And I go, don't give me the excuse that you have 20 minutes. You consider me a friend. You need to do this. Do it. And so, I think oftentimes we get in our own way of thinking I have to have the perfect words. And just be yourself. Say what you would normally say and do this. You need to do it. I can't do it right now. Okay, when can you do it? I can do it in 2 weeks. Well, I wouldn't be a good friend to you if I didn't follow up with you in 2 weeks. So I will follow up with you in 2 weeks. And I do.
So let's gear a little bit differently. And forgive me, guys, on the phone. This is going 1,000 different directions, but I'm loving this conversation. So I'm going to keep going 1,000 different directions. One of the things that, I mean, let's be real, let's be honest, let's be transparent. This is a female-dominated business in this particular time and age, and whatever, that's fine. And one of the things that we actually provide for a lot of our coaches that I have found, and I'm seeing some of our coaches on here, I see Tanya on here, I see a couple others, where that calendar of here's what I'm going to post today on social media, and here's my theme and everything else. I'm just gonna own this. That does not work for me. Just doesn't. Do you have a calendar that you use, and kind of what are your thoughts and themes on there? Or is it, this is what I'm thinking today, here's what's out there, let me throw it out there?
So yeah, in fact, it's funny that you say that. Here's my calendar right here. So I know what I'm gonna post. But I'm gonna
screenshot that real fast.
Yeah, I can screenshot it and send it.
No, I'm joking, Mike, it's okay.
But it, a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with fitness at all. Like I look at here, E plus R equals O, which means event plus response equals outcome. So we all have events happen to us, whether it's good or bad events. But it's not the event that determines the outcome. It's our response. So I did a post based on that. And so I think a lot of these things, compounding interest, I'm in the financial business. I did a whole post on compounding interest. But the simple thing is, a lot of these things that apply to fitness also apply to every other aspect in our jobs. The Slight Edge is a whole book written about compounding interest. And so how can you take that, especially as a guy, how can you just add value to people? Because remember, what you're doing is if you're just doing a health thing, then they could go down the street and join a gym to do a health thing. What you're doing is you're selling your brand. Who are you? I have 5 F's. Everybody on my team knows this. It's faith, family, friends, finances, fitness. That's what I try and post about right there, is those 5. But they all have continual themes in them. When you put them all together, it's all the same thing, is that when you invest in those things, you get the returns out of them. And so my marketing plan or my calendar has those 5 F's just on repeat.
I love it. I love it. And again, I'm gonna try and pigeonhole you back into a question that I asked earlier that I don't really think I got an answer to, but so I'm gonna go back to it.
I'm pretty good at avoiding questions.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm pretty good at re-asking. When you talk about which platform that you're on, and you've got a marketing plan that's in play, which means that you've also thought about the medium that you're putting that marketing plan on and what's going on what. When you're looking at that, are you posting across all social media platform, or have you picked a horse and are running with it?
I get the most response to Facebook, probably just because I have more friends on there. And maybe it's my age, I have no idea. But I get more response to Facebook than I do Instagram. However, I still post on both of them, and candidly, it's the same thing. So there's nothing different between those two.
Okay, that's not a problem. And are you? Well, I already know the answer to that question, and everyone knows the answer to that question, so I'm not even going to ask it. I guess a couple last questions, and please, if anyone else has questions, toss them out in the chat, unmute yourself, come through, please.
Hey, Joy, just real quick. Joy, you're exactly right. We should all be learning out loud with our personal development. I mean, if you're learning something from these books, I mean, the 10X rule I just read, and I posted every day. I sent screenshots to my team. I mean, if there's something I'm learning, that's what we do. We help people. And whether it's helping people with their fitness or whether it's helping them with their life, that's what we do. And so I completely agree with you that we should be learning out loud.
So I'm going to ask you to learn out loud a little bit then at this point. You're 13 months in, you're a 1-star diamond. Not everyone on this call is that. Not everyone on this call has been doing it as long as you have. Not everyone can say they're a diamond or a 1-star diamond, etc. If you could go back and tell yourself in the beginning one thing, what would you tell yourself? What would be that one piece of advice you would give yourself when you started that you've learned over the last 13 months?
It would be, I've already said it, it would be consistent. Consistency is the key, and don't try and overwhelm yourself, even if you can do a little bit of something every day. And that's why I have the marketing plan. I don't want to get up and think about what I have to post that day, because if I do and I have a busy work schedule or the kids, something happens, I don't want to have to think about what I have to post. So if I can take care of that ahead of time, then, with a marketing plan or with something that I'm going to do, the consistency is the key to this, because the bottom line is this: if you're not inviting people, you will not hit Success Club. I pretty much found that out. There is no secret to this business. You have to invite people. If you don't invite people, you won't hit Success Club. And if you need a catalyst to invite people, that catalyst is typically a post. So if you're not making a post, then it doesn't give you a catalyst to invite them. And if you don't invite them, then you won't hit Success Club. So if we know that, then, why would we not create a marketing plan? But just remember, your marketing plan should also talk to who you want. They should talk to you. So I want to talk about being skeptical, because I'm Mr. Skeptical. I want to talk about why would I not do this? I want to talk about my faith, my family, my friends, my finances. I mean, that's who we are. That's what we do. Our team prays before every single call, because that's who we are. That's who we're trying to attract. That's what we're trying to be. So, consistency is the key.
Such a strong message and so true. Well, before I ask my last question.
Hey, hold on. I got one more thing to that.
Please,
so basically, the 10X rule I thought was great. It's the key to success and failure. But then if you combine that with what Gary Vee says, Gary Vee flat out said, he goes, you have a free marketing platform. Free. He goes, these social media platforms cost you nothing. He goes, before these things, it would cost you millions of dollars to market to the same audience that you have right now. So I thought it was interesting in the 10X book when, I guess he went from 2 weeks of making a post or an email to then a month, and then people started dropping off. And somebody said, we need to go to every 2 months. He goes, perfect. We're going to go to 10 times every day. And we're going to make a post about it 10 times every day. And he said, and it's only when he decided to do that he created a brand and a marketing effort, and people really started to grab hold of who he was and what he did. And I think that's interesting for all of us, is that when we look at this as a business and we're helping people, instead of being ashamed of posting or being out there or learning out loud, we should embrace that. And instead of just doing it once, let's do it as many times as we possibly can.
I love it. Now you gave me another rabbit hole to go down, so I'm not going to my last question yet. You mentioned that, in 10X for Grant Cardone's book, that, it was the creation of a brand. You also brought up Gary Vee, who I'm a big fan of, and obviously he talks a lot about in his book, Jab, 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 Right Cross, of just give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away about your content, and then you're going to go for that ask. I think something that, and maybe I'm self-reflecting on this one, but I think something that a lot of guys struggle with in the beginning is kind of identifying that brand. There is a template out there for women to use in this business when it comes to creating a brand. Whether they should or shouldn't is a whole other conversation, because you want that individuality in your brand, but that's another story. How would you describe your brand? And what did that pathway look for the discovery for you to find it?
So it's interesting. We had a call on our team, and I would advise this for every team. It's basically called attraction marketing. So we had a self-analysis of everyone's page. We said, I want you to go and look at my page and tell me what you see there. And it could be LinkedIn. It could be the pictures. What is it that attracts you to me? What causes you to watch my stories, my posts? What is it? And I think it's when we do that we can identify the brand that we have. Because if you're posting without a business, it really speaks to what's important to you and what you're going after. And so to me, it was those 5 F's, the faith, family, friends, fitness, finances. And those are the things I'm going to post about, and those are my brands. But every post I'm doing is trying to add value to somebody.
I love it. Okay, so last, and I'll open it up to the group, but I haven't seen anybody unmute themselves or raise their hand or jump up and down or whatnot. Any other questions from anybody else for Mike on the call? And I guess there's a lot of people on here who know you already, so I should probably ask some of them. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Kyle, he picked on you first, and you're just to the left of him on my screen. That's why I'm looking over here.
Kyle's about to be diamond in like a day or two.
Serious? Okay, then
Emerald away.
Even better. We're gonna ask him at this one. Kyle, what was it about Mike's approach when he approached you about the business opportunity that made you at least consider saying yes?
He's a great one to ask too.
You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Well, I try to think back on this actually often because, yeah, my wife Jenna, she's sitting next to me. We both said no like 2 times, and then I think Mike messaged me, and I was kind of saying the reasons that I didn't want to do it. I had a perception of what Beachbody was already, and I didn't want anything to do with it. But then he asked if he could call, I think. And yeah, we talked on the phone, and I talked through all of my objections to it. And he basically, the story that he tells on this call, and it's the same story I've heard him tell like 3 or 4 times in the same story he told me on the phone. And it's just like, this has worked really well for me. And
Why would you not do it?
yeah, why would you not do it? And I was just in the right spot in my life too, because I'm a gym rat. I have been for a long time, but I was also like, this whole going to the gym and dealing with the crowds and doing what everybody else says you're supposed to do is for the birds, like Mike said. So I guess, and he was persistent too, and I trust him. You know, like he's got a lot of credibility with us because of, you know, being a pastor at the church and had already invested in us in a personal relationship before that, up to that point.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest thing, to be honest.
Awesome. No, I think you bring up a really good point, Kyle. In fact, I heard Joy do this earlier today on a coach interest call where she spent the vast majority of the call listening and learning about the person on the other end of the call, not just spitting out information about what it is to be a coach, etc. It's about building that relationship and listening, and listening with intent. Not just listening to get the next answer out or get the next, you know, I can't wait to tell you about a challenge pack kind of a thing. It's like, no. Let me actually listen and understand about your life. So,
well, it's important. Let me add a little color to that because Kyle is from California and Jenna is from New Jersey, and their whole goal is wanting to help people. In fact, they were personal trainers at one point in time. But if you're a personal trainer, you can only help the people that are in your same city. Good luck. And you know, Kyle was saying I would try and write out a plan for people in California, and whether they did it or not, he had no idea. It was after that happened. And so with this, you really can expand your reach to all those people that you know across the nation, and that's powerful. And not only are you talking about, hey, you don't have to go to the gym, you're just talking about 20 to 30 minutes, but you get to help so many more people than are in the 10 to 15 mile radius of where you are.
absolutely. Okay, so it is about 8:50 now, at least in the central time zone. It's 8:50 where I'm looking at my computer. So if there's nothing else, and I don't think I see anything else in there, we need to learn how to listen and learn not to listen to respond. Amen, Tanya. Let me ask yeah, sure, I'll ask this as a final question. So as a final question, you mentioned Summit earlier. So Summit, for those of you who don't know, biggest event of the year. It's going to be held in New Orleans this upcoming year. It is a phenomenal celebration of successes in our business. It is a phenomenal learning opportunity to be able to hear from the brightest and the best in our business and those who are successful coaches as well as corporate. But one of the things at Summit is the recognition. You know, the recognition of rank advancements, of success starters, of elite, of all these different areas. So Mike, my question for you in front of everybody else, what are you being recognized for at Summit 2020?
Yeah, I'll at least be premier in Summit 2020. I mean, you'll see me. So go ahead and write it down. So that's 2-star. And hey, with the way that Kyle and Chelsea and Lindsay and Lisa and all of them are growing, I mean, hey, it could be a whole lot more. I mean, our team is growing fast, and so I mean, who knows? I think that's the great part, is that we get to do it together. We get to celebrate together. And I want to go back to a question that you asked earlier, which is, if I had one piece of advice, because I started literally, it was either 1 week or 2 weeks after the summit, and that was dumb. I mean, I really should have gone to Summit. I had no idea. I had been doing this thing for almost a year before I went to Summit, and then was totally re-energized by Summit. I only imagine how much harder I would have worked had I been to been to that first. It's a first-class organization. I mean, they do everything first class. I was blown away by it. So if anyone's ever on the fence about going to that or not, I mean, I would highly, highly, highly recommend going to that. And then, of course, the the mega workout of 90 minutes is pretty awesome when you have 25,000 people there doing along with you. So
I'm going to echo everything you just said. Summit was a game changer for me personally. My first summit was in Nashville, and it changed the way I interacted in this business for sure. I can also tell you, as someone who rides the coattails of an elite coach, it is so much better on the floor than it is in the stands. So that goal of premier, absolutely, it gets you that floor seating. That alone is worth it. But for anyone on the call, actually, and this is achievable for anyone on this call, my favorite event of any event we've ever been to, and I've been fortunate enough to, again, ride Joy's coattails for a while and to attend quite a few, New Leader Conference. And Mike, I think you qualified this year. You're going to get to go next year.
No, I've already been.
Oh, have you? Okay, good.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, it was great.
And NLC was by far my favorite because and for those of you who don't know, when you're 1-star or 2-star, you're invited to go to Los Angeles for 3 days, visit corporate, and it is all about new leader development. And I love Summit. I love the bells and whistles. I love all of the recognition and the big pomp and circumstance. But I absolutely loved NLC when we sat in that room and it opened, at least the year I went, it opened with Carl walking out and it was go time. There was no band, there was no anything else. It was like, oh no, we're just gonna open up the fire hose and you're gonna start drinking. And that's the mentality I personally love. So I cannot wait to see you walk that stage as a 2-star, because you're going to have to walk the stage as a 2-star if you're going to be premier at least, as well as being able to sit down on the floor in seats that are dedicated over to you as a premier. Because if you said it here, your team's heard it. Your team is a part of that broader goal who's going to help you actually build and go to that level. And we're all going to be watching and cheering you on, more importantly than anything else. So last thing I'm going to say before I let everybody go is it's the thing that Joy always forgets when we do this. Everyone bust out your cell phones, because this is not a business of lone wolves. This is a business of people helping other people. So I want you to get your cell phones, and I actually want you to take a picture or a boomerang or whatever you're doing. So on the count of 3, we're all going to wave, although I think I'm going to do boomerang this time on IG, as people are commenting on things. Thank you, Annie Laurie. Okay, on the count of 3, everybody ready? We're all gonna wave. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Awesome, y'all. We appreciate you. We will let you know when the next day of the Man Cave is going to be. It will be the middle of October or so. I have an idea of what I'd like to do for that one. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull it off or not, considering I've talked to literally no one about this yet. But there is a special event that's coming up in the middle of October. It is at Leadership, and there's going to be a whole bunch of us that are going to be in the same room at the same time. So I think we might work something around that in the middle of October. So I hope you guys have a great day. Mike, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Kyle, thank you for being put on the spot and actually doing that just ad hoc. It's going through. And guys, have a great night.